I'm sitting in this internet cafe in Chiang Mai, staring at a computer screen that's about to change everything. My hands are shaking as I type in the routing numbers. $12,000. The last real money I have in this world. Are you sure you want to send this transfer? The screen asks me. I pause for maybe 3 seconds, then I click yes. The money disappears into the digital void, heading straight to Maya's account in Bangkok. She had called me crying the night before, her voice breaking through the phone. Frank, the lease is almost gone. They said they won't wait anymore. I need the money now or we lose everything. I had told her, don't worry, baby. I'll figure it out. And I did figure it out. I sold my car, my silver Toyota Highlander that I bought 3 years ago when I retired from UPS. I hadn't planned to share this one, it still stings. But earlier this week, I got a message from a longtime subscriber. He's been following this channel quietly for over a year. He said, I didn't lose 12 grand in one night. I lost it every time I thought saving her meant saving myself. That hit me right in the gut. At first I felt defensive, like maybe I was still justifying it in my own head. But the more I sat with it, the more it unraveled something in me. He was right. It wasn't about the car, or the money, or the lease. It was about wanting to matter to someone so badly you'd trade logic for hope, dignity for connection. If you've ever been there, holding the phone, making promises you can't afford to keep, I hope this story helps you feel a little less alone. Please take a second to like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. And if this story stirs something in you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And to everyone who's supported the channel with super thanks, messages, or just by showing up, thank you. You've helped me turn heartbreak into something honest, something real. Alright, let me take you back to where it all started. 28 years of driving those brown trucks through Cleveland winters. And that Highlander was supposed to be my reward. Instead, it became her salvation. Or so I thought. I love you so much, Frank. She had whispered into the phone. This spa, our spa, it's going to be beautiful. We're going to build our life together. I believed every word. Why wouldn't I? When someone cries real tears and tells you they love you, when they share their dreams and make you part of them, you believe. That's what love does to you. It makes you stupid and hopeful at the same time. The transfer confirmation appears on the screen. Transaction complete. I lean back in this plastic chair and smile. I actually smile. I'm thinking about how proud she'll be when she sees that money hit her account. I'm thinking about the spa she's been sketching for months, with its bamboo floors and soft lighting and the smell of lemongrass oil. I'm thinking about how we'll stand in that empty space together and watch her dreams come to life. What I'm not thinking about is how quiet my phone has been for the past 4 hours. What I'm not thinking about is how she didn't answer when I called this morning to tell her the car sold. What I'm not thinking about is the fact that in 12 hours, I'll be completely blocked from her life, and everything I thought I knew about love will crumble into dust. But right now, in this moment, I'm just a 58-year-old man who thinks he's saving the woman he loves. Right now, I'm still Frank DeLuca, the guy who believes in second chances. 6 months earlier, I had walked into that little dental clinic on Thanon Phahonothan with a toothache that was making me want to crawl out of my skin. I'd been living in Thailand for about 2 months by then, trying to stretch my retirement savings and find some peace after my divorce. The clinic was small, nothing fancy, but it was clean, and the receptionist behind the desk made me stop walking. "Hello, handsome uncle," she said in accented English, looking up from her computer with these warm brown eyes that seemed to see right through me. "What brings you here today?" I told her about my tooth, and she nodded sympathetically. "Oh, that sounds terrible. Let me get Dr. Somchai for you. But first, can I get you some water? You look like you're in pain." Her name was Maya, and she had this way of talking that made everything sound gentle and caring. While I waited, she asked me where I was from, how long I'd been in Thailand, if I was adjusting okay to the food. "Most Western men," she said with a little laugh, "they come here and only want som tam and pad thai. But you should try khao soi. It's from here, from the north. Much better than Bangkok food." Dr. Somchai fixed my tooth, but I found myself lingering at the reception desk afterward, talking to Maya about nothing important. She told me she was from a small village outside Chiang Mai, that she learned English working with foreign patients, that she lived with her younger sister in a little apartment near the night bazaar, You seem different from other Thai men, she said, tilting her head slightly, more gentle, more patient. When I asked her if she'd like to have dinner sometime, she smiled and wrote her number on the back of my receipt. I know a good place for khao soi, she said, but only if you promise not to ask for it mild. Real khao soi should make you sweat a little. That first dinner was at a food stall by the Kok River, plastic chairs and flickering fluorescent lights and the best bowl of noodles I'd ever tasted. She watched me struggle with the chopsticks and laughed, not cruelly but warmly, like she was genuinely delighted by my efforts. Here, she said, reaching across to adjust my grip. Like this. Don't fight the noodles, let them come to you. We talked for 3 hours that night. She told me about her family, her dreams, her fears. I told her about Cleveland, about driving delivery trucks through snowstorms, about my son who hadn't spoken to me since the divorce. That's sad, she said, touching my hand across the table. Family should forgive. Love should forgive. When she said that, something in my chest loosened for the first time in years. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. I'd pick her up after work, we'd find some little restaurant or street cart, and we'd talk until the vendors started packing up. She was curious about everything, asking me questions about America, about snow, about what it was like to drive a truck for almost 30 years. You must have seen so many things, she said one night as we walked along the river. So many people, so many stories. I found myself telling her things I'd never told anyone, about the loneliness of those long routes, about coming home to an empty house, about feeling invisible in my own life. You're not invisible to me, she said, stopping to look at me directly. I see you, Frank. You're a good man. She had this way of making me feel valuable, not just as someone with money or status, but as a person worth knowing. When she smiled at me, really smiled, it was like being seen for the first time in years. After our 4th dinner, she kissed me goodnight outside her apartment building. It was gentle and tentative, and when she pulled back, she said, I like spending time with you, Frank. You make me feel safe. I drove back to my hotel that night, feeling like I was 25 again, like anything was possible. A month into whatever we were becoming, Maya started talking about her dream. We were sitting on a bench in some little park, sharing a bag of mango sticky rice, when she pulled out a small notebook. Can I show you something? She asked, flipping through pages covered in sketches and Thai writing. It's probably silly, but I've been thinking about it for years. The sketches were of a spa, nothing elaborate, just a small space with treatment rooms and a reception area. She had drawn everything, from the placement of the massage tables to the types of plants she wanted by the windows. I want to call it Sabai Wellness, she said, pointing to Thai letters at the top of one page. Sabai means comfortable, relaxed. I want people to come here and forget their stress. She explained her vision with such detail and passion that I could almost smell the essential oils, almost hear the soft music playing in the background. I've been working at the clinic for 4 years, she said, saving every baht I can, but it's so slow, and property here is getting more expensive. She closed the notebook and looked at me with something that might have been embarrassment. I told you it was probably silly. It's not silly at all, I said, and I meant it. It sounds beautiful. You'd be amazing at it. The way her face lit up when I said that, you'd think I'd just handed her the moon. Really? You think so? I nodded, and she leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. I've never had someone believe in my dreams before, she said quietly. Thai men, they want you to have small dreams. Safe dreams. But you listen like it could really happen. That night, lying in my hotel room, I found myself thinking about her spa more than my own problems. I started doing research on wellness tourism in Thailand, looking up rental prices in Chiang Mai, even browsing websites about spa equipment and licensing requirements. For the first time since my retirement, I had something to focus on besides my own loneliness. For the first time in years, I felt useful. The first time she asked for help, it was small. We were having dinner at her favorite som tam stand when she mentioned that her sister's motorbike had broken down and she needed to get to university. I'm so sorry to bother you with this, Maya said, looking genuinely distressed. But could you maybe lend me 3,000 baht? Just until next week when I get paid. Of course I said yes. It was less than $100, And she seemed so worried about her sister. She paid me back exactly when she said she would, down to the last baht. A few weeks later, she mentioned that she'd found a potential location for her spa, a small space near the old city that was perfect except for the deposit. The landlord wants to see serious money, she said. Not just first month, but 3 months up front. I'm so close, Frank, but I need about 60,000 baht. 60,000 baht was about $1,800. I had it. More importantly, I wanted to give it to her. Consider it an investment, I told her, in our future. The way she cried when I said that, tears of relief and gratitude, made me feel like a hero. She threw her arms around me right there in the restaurant and whispered, "I love you, Frank. I love you so much." It was the first time she'd said it, and I believed every word. But then the story started getting complicated. She'd mentioned meetings with contractors that fell through, permit issues that required additional fees, family emergencies that needed immediate attention. Each crisis was small, manageable, and completely reasonable. Her grandmother needed medicine. The permit office required additional documentation that cost money to obtain. The contractor wanted a larger down payment to secure materials. "I hate asking you," she'd say each time, her eyes downcast with shame. "I know this isn't your responsibility. But I don't have anyone else, Frank. My family is poor, and I can't get a business loan without collateral. Every time I gave her money, she'd pay me back something, maybe a quarter or half of what I'd sent. I'm trying so hard to manage everything," she'd explain. "But between helping my family and trying to get the spa started, I'm stretched so thin." The partial payments made it feel real, like she was genuinely struggling but trying her best to be fair. What I didn't realize was that I was being carefully managed, slowly conditioned to accept bigger and bigger requests. The receipts started bothering me first. She'd show me documentation for things she'd bought for the spa, but the numbers never quite made sense. A massage table that cost twice what I could find online. Permits that seemed expensive, even for Thailand. When I asked gentle questions about the costs, she'd get defensive. "Frank, do you think I'm lying to you?" she'd ask, her voice hurt and small. "I thought you trusted me. I thought you understood that business here is different than in America." She was right about business being different, and I didn't want to be the ugly American questioning everything, assuming I knew better. So I apologized and told her I was just trying to understand, trying to be helpful. "I know you are," she'd say, softening. "That's why I love you. But sometimes it feels like you don't believe in me." Then she'd cry, and I'd hold her, and I'd promise to trust her more. The cycle repeated itself every few weeks, each time making me more reluctant to ask questions, more eager to prove my faith in her. By the 4th month, I was sending her money regularly. Nothing huge, usually between $500 and $2,000 at a time, but it was adding up. My retirement savings were shrinking faster than I'd planned, but I told myself it was an investment. In her business, in our relationship, in the life we were building together. She'd send me photos of her looking at properties, talking to contractors, meeting with suppliers. She'd video call me from what she claimed were business meetings, though I could rarely understand the conversations happening in Thai around her. "Everything is moving so fast now," she'd say excitedly. "I think we can open by the end of the year. Our spa, Frank. Can you believe it?" The way she said "our" made everything feel worth it. I'd gone from being a retired delivery driver with no purpose to being part of something beautiful, something that mattered. Then the big ask came. I was scheduled to fly back to the States for a few weeks to handle some legal paperwork from my divorce, just administrative stuff that couldn't be done remotely. I'd booked my ticket, arranged everything, when Maya called me crying harder than I'd ever heard her cry. It was 2 a.m. her time, and she was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. "Frank, I'm so sorry to call you so late, but something terrible has happened. The landlord, he says he can't wait anymore. There's another tenant who wants the space, and they have cash. He says if I don't have the full lease payment by tomorrow, he's giving it to them." She was hyperventilating through her tears, and I could hear her sister in the background trying to calm her down. "How much?" I asked, though part of me already knew this was going to be bigger than anything before. $12,000, she whispered. "I know it's so much money, Frank. I know I have no right to ask. But this is everything. This is our dream. Without this space, there is no spa. There is no us building something together. I sat there in my hotel room at 3 in the morning, listening to the woman I loved fall apart over a dream we'd built together, and I thought about my car, my Toyota Highlander, sitting in a storage facility in Cleveland, worth maybe $14,000 if I was lucky. I'd planned to ship it to Thailand eventually, but the costs were astronomical, and I'd been putting it off. "Don't cry," I told her. "Let me think about this. Let me see what I can do." The next morning, I called a friend back home and asked him to list the car for sale. Within 3 days, I had a buyer willing to pay $14,000 cash. "The lease is saved," I told Maya when I called her with the news. "I'm wiring you $12,000 tomorrow morning, and we're going to have the most beautiful spa in Chiang Mai." The sound she made was something between a sob and a laugh, pure relief and joy mixed together. "Frank, I can't believe you would do this for me. For us. I promise you, I swear to you, this is going to be everything we dreamed of. I'm going to make you so proud." That night, she video called me from what she said was our new spa location, an empty room with good natural light and space for 4 treatment areas. "Look," she said, panning her phone around the room. "This is where people will come to find peace. This is what love built." The morning I sent the money, I felt proud and nervous and excited all at the same time. I was supposed to fly back to the States in 2 weeks, but now I had a reason to stay, something to build, a partnership to nurture. I walked to that internet cafe on Than Phao, the same one where tourists go to video call their families back home, and I initiated the largest bank transfer of my life. $12,000, floating through cyberspace from my account to hers, carrying with it all my hopes for our future. The confirmation came through immediately. Transaction completed. I took a screenshot and sent it to her along with a message. "It's done, baby. Our dream is real now." Then I walked back to my hotel, ordered room service, and waited for her call. She always called after receiving money, usually within an hour or 2, full of gratitude and excitement and plans for how she'd use it. But that evening, my phone stayed quiet. I figured she was busy with the landlord, signing papers, making arrangements. I sent her a text. "Hope everything went smoothly with the lease. Can't wait to hear all about it. Love you." No response. By the next morning, I was starting to worry. I called her phone and it went straight to voicemail. I tried again an hour later. Same thing. I sent text messages, Facebook messages, even tried calling the dental clinic where she worked. Maya didn't come in today. The receptionist told me in broken English. She calls sick. That made sense. Maybe she was exhausted from all the stress of almost losing the lease. But by evening, I still hadn't heard anything. I tried calling her sister's number, which she'd given me months ago for emergencies. The number was disconnected. I walked by the clinic the next day, hoping to catch her at work or at least get more information. "Maya, no work here anymore, doctor." Somchai told me when I asked. "She quit yesterday. Very sudden. Very strange." My stomach dropped. "Did she say why? Did she leave any message for me?" He shook his head sympathetically. "Sorry. Very sorry. She just say she cannot work anymore, then she go." I started calling from different numbers, thinking maybe her phone was broken, or she'd lost my contact information somehow. Each number I tried was blocked immediately. I created new social media accounts to try to message her. Blocked within minutes. I went to her apartment building and asked the security guard about her. "They move out 2 days ago," he told me in careful English. "Very quick. Take everything." I stood there on the sidewalk outside her building, looking up at the windows of what used to be her home, and I felt something cold settling in my chest. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a technical problem or a family emergency. This was something else entirely. That evening, I took a tuk-tuk to the property she'd shown me on video, the empty space that was supposed to become our spa. The building was there, but when I talked to the landlord, he looked at me with confusion. "Maya? No one with that name rent here. This space available 6 months now. No one even asked about lease." He showed me the property listing, the same space she'd video called me from, marked as available for rent with no pending applications. The next few days blurred together into a haze of disbelief and desperate detective work. I visited every business property rental office in Chiang Mai, showing them her photo, asking if they'd seen her or if she'd inquired about leasing space. Nothing. I went back to the dental clinic and asked Dr. Somchai if I could see her employment records, if there was any forwarding address or emergency contact information. "I'm sorry," he said, looking genuinely sympathetic, "but she work here with fake documents. We find out after she leave, her real name not Maya. We call police, but they say this very common. Many people use false identity for work." I felt like I was drowning in plain sight, surrounded by people going about their normal lives while my world collapsed around me. I'd sit in coffee shops and try to make sense of what had happened, replaying every conversation, every promise, every moment of intimacy. Had any of it been real? The way she'd looked at me, the way she'd cried when I gave her money, the way she'd said she loved me, were those all just performance? Or had there been something genuine mixed in with the deception? I started having dreams about her, not romantic dreams, but strange, unsettling ones where she'd be sitting across from me at one of our old restaurants, explaining everything with that same gentle voice she'd used to ask for money. "You have to understand, Frank," Dream Maya would say. "I never meant to hurt you. But you were so eager to help, so eager to be needed. How could I say no to that?" I'd wake up angry at my subconscious for giving her a voice, for making her sound reasonable even in my sleep. The anger was easier than the sadness, easier than accepting that I'd been an easy mark, a lonely retiree with money to burn and a desperate need to feel important to someone. But the anger never lasted long. Mostly, I just felt hollow, like someone had reached inside me and scooped out everything that had been growing back to life over the past 6 months. I could have gone home, should have gone home. I still had my return ticket, still had enough money left for a few more months if I was careful. I could have gone back to Cleveland, found a small apartment, tried to reconnect with my son, maybe even explained what had happened and asked for his forgiveness for being such a fool. But something kept me in Thailand, some stubborn part of me that wasn't ready to admit complete defeat. Maybe it was pride, not wanting to return home as a victim of romance fraud. Maybe it was shame, not wanting to face the questions and the pity and the "I told you so's" that would inevitably come. Or maybe it was something simpler than that. Maybe Thailand had become the place where I'd felt most like myself, even if that self had turned out to be gullible and desperate. The weather was warm, the cost of living was manageable with what I had left, and there was something peaceful about being anonymous in a place where nobody expected anything from me. I moved to a cheaper apartment on the other side of town, a small studio with a decent view and no memories of Maya. I established new routines, different coffee shops, different walking routes, different restaurants. I avoided the places we'd been together, not because they were too painful, but because they felt contaminated somehow, like crime scenes I didn't want to revisit. Some evenings, I'd catch myself looking for her face in crowds, wondering if she was still in Chiang Mai or if she'd moved on to another city, another victim. I wondered how many men she'd done this to, how many lonely retirees had sent her money thinking they were investing in love. I wondered if she ever thought about me, if she felt any guilt, or if I was just another successful project she'd moved on from without a second thought. The hardest part wasn't the money, though $12,000 was more than I could afford to lose. The hardest part was accepting that I'd been so hungry for connection, so desperate to feel valuable, that I'd ignored every warning sign along the way. The receipts that didn't make sense, the stories that changed, the way she'd cry whenever I asked questions, the fact that everything about her business seemed to exist only in conversations and promises, never in concrete reality. I'd wanted so badly to believe in her, in us, in the possibility of building something meaningful together, that I'd convinced myself that love meant never asking hard questions. I'd mistaken my neediness for generosity, her manipulation for affection, and my willingness to be used for proof that I was finally capable of selfless love. 6 months later, I'm still here in Chiang Mai, though in a different apartment with a different view and a very different perspective on my life. I've learned to cook a few Thai dishes, found a regular coffee shop where the owner knows my order, established a routine that doesn't involve anyone else's dreams or emergencies. I see other Western men around town, mostly retirees like me, and sometimes I wonder about their stories. Some of them look happy, genuinely connected to the women they're with, building real relationships based on mutual respect and honest communication. Others have that same eager, slightly desperate look I must have had when I was with Maya, the look of someone trying too hard to be needed. I want to warn them sometimes, to tell them to ask more questions, to trust their instincts when something feels off. But I never do. Everyone has to learn their own lessons about love and loneliness, and the price of both. I still think about her sometimes, usually late at night when the street noise dies down and I'm left alone with my thoughts. Not romantic thoughts, not fantasies about reconciliation or revenge, just curiosity about who she really was beneath all the performance. Whether anything she told me about her life was true, whether she ever felt even a flicker of genuine affection for me, whether she ever lay awake at night thinking about the men she'd deceived and wondering if she could have chosen a different path. I'll never know the answers to those questions, and I've made peace with that uncertainty. What I do know is that I came to Thailand looking for a second chance at love and ended up getting something different but maybe more valuable, a second chance at honesty. Honesty about my own needs, my own vulnerabilities, my own capacity for self-deception when loneliness gets too heavy to carry alone. The other day, a neighbor asked me why I decided to stay in Thailand, what brought me here in the first place. I thought about giving him the simple answer, the one about seeking adventure and affordable retirement in paradise. Instead, I told him the truth. I came here to feel something again, I said, and I did feel something. It just wasn't what I expected. He nodded like he understood, and maybe he did. Maybe we're all here for similar reasons, looking for some version of ourselves that got lost somewhere along the way, hoping that a change of scenery might lead to a change of heart. I found out that feelings don't discriminate between truth and lies, that you can love someone who doesn't exist and mourn a relationship that was never real. But I also found out that surviving that kind of heartbreak doesn't kill you, it just teaches you to carry your loneliness more carefully, to offer your heart with more wisdom, and to understand that sometimes the most important love you can learn is the kind you give yourself when no one else is watching.